Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Ryan. If you're watching or going to be watching this live or watching the recording, I am really glad. This is my favorite Monday morning in a long time. So I am here with Brent Bannon. He is the CEO of Strengths Champion Solutions. You can check him out at brentobannon.com. But he is also a master certified coach with the International Coach Federation, the first Gallup certified strengths coach. He is a world class coach, world class person, and I know for sure world class grandpa. So, Brent, I am super glad to be here with you today.
Yeah, and I'm really curious because I have futuristic also, and you have that on your shirt, Ryan. So maybe we can dream about what's next.
We totally can. We totally can. And actually, as soon as you agreed to be on, I have been like just really looking forward to our conversation today. So, of course, I got this shirt. Futuristic's one of my favorite Gallup Strengths talents, but I also got the Strengths mug.
Yes.
Um, and one of the things I love about this, and we'll hold it up again, is I actually kind of call it my maximizer mug. I don't know how to do this
There you go.
because
You got it.
they are just so big. Like I go to the coffee pot like twice instead of like six.
It's like a double cup or
Yeah,
a 3X cup.
right.
And that's
Like
what maximizers do, right? They want
I don't need to go to the coffee pot all the time. I just need it right now. Twice. I'll go twice.
Hey, I envy those folks with maximizer. It is number 34 for me.
So definitely not really you. So you got to hire somebody to help out.
I do. I definitely lean on people who have high maximizer as well as high strategic. And it baffled me when I first discovered that maximizer was at my bottom. It really did. It baffled me. And so, at least how I've made sense of it so far is that I have high achiever, which is number 3 for me, and then high focus, which is number 1, and competition, which is number 5. And I think those 3 work together, and that's how I maximize only the things that I'm focused on, only the things that I feel are a priority that God has put as like, okay, this is something like, for example, coaching, professional coaching. I didn't just stop at the associate certified coach level. I didn't just stop in, basic training. I believed I was supposed to be world class in coaching. So that's why I pursued that master certified coach through the ICF. So I'm a good enougher on many things, except for the things I either want to be the best and win at or is prioritized. So that's how I make sense of it. Any ideas pop in your mind around that?
I think it's really great to remember, so thinking about the maximizer talent, it's someone that's able to take something that's there and established and really kind of polish it and refine it. We'll spend the time to do the details. So it's one of those things that just because it's number 34 doesn't mean that you can't do it. But as you were saying, you have to bring in your other talents and you really have to be focused on something. So if it's just something you just don't care about, like whatever, right?
For example, like even in a business setting, like my website, I've actually learned how to do a few things like, change my website copy or change a few images. And however, to like really polish it and make sure everything is, world class, I absolutely hire someone else because I don't get into, fine tuning that last 10% or that last 5% of quality. I'd rather give that to someone else.
Right. Yeah, it's really neat. Now Gallup is a really great organization when it comes to strengths. And that's how we first connected a few years back. And you're
Mm-hmm.
the very first one. And when they started to train and certified coaches, you were the first one to finish. And I'm like number 20,000 or something like that. So I don't know if you knew that. So I did. And I asked them, I said, obviously, I'm not the first, but did I do it faster than Brent? And they didn't even respond back to me.
Yeah,
But
I
now,
think we should give credit, first of all, to all of those individuals who were trained by Gallup before they officially certified independent coaches. So there were plenty of trained individuals and typically within organizations. So, but it is true that I believe it was in 2013, if I remember dates correctly, context is low for me as well, is when the first cohort, which there were 7 of us in that cohort, and as we were the beta group for Gallup's independent coaching program, we all finished it. And at the very end, we have to turn in a certain amount of evaluations on coaching clients. And as you know, take an exam and a few other things I can't remember now. And I was already doing all of those things. So I think it gave me a little heads up that I could, or a leg up, maybe I should say, that I could just finish faster than some of the other folks in our cohort, which are dear friends, still dear friends to this day. So we definitely pushed each other. And there were a few other people with high competition that also wanted to be the first. But it's interesting, even though, I'm the first Gallup certified strengths coach, that doesn't do much except maybe sometimes get me a free cup of coffee.
well, anytime.
See, probably why I'm on your show today. Coffee
Totally.
with Ryan.
Now, are you actually drinking coffee right now?
I'm an early riser, so I've already had my coffee.
All right. Well, right on. If it helps, I was awake for a while, but I held off. You know, when I was thinking about maybe some questions to ask you ahead of time, you're a master certified coach, you're a Gallup strengths coach, and you're world class coach. Coach is kind of a buzzword nowadays. What does being a coach actually mean, and what does it actually mean to you?
Yeah, the term coach has been loosely used for many years. Most of us, have an image of an athletic coach.
Mhm.
And as an athlete and a tennis player who's played high school and college tennis and continue to play tennis, I've had actually good coaches and bad coaches. And my very first, or not very first, but my tennis coach in high school, I would say, was probably a great embodiment of a professional coach that we would use today, because he was very caring. He was very open to listen and really evaluate my talents and strengths and even individualize and how to bring out the best in me. And he did it in a strategic and caring way. And so also when we think of professional coaches today, I think they have a lot of natural talents like asking good questions, listening deeply, noticing, reading body language, and understanding human development. Those are natural things that we can actually grow in. But some people gravitate towards doing that. And so I think those are natural with my individualization strength and maybe relator and woo strength as well. However, to polish it and maximize it and take it to the world-class level professionally, that's where you need knowledge, you need skills, and you need practice. And the International Coaching Federation, though I was skeptical in the beginning when it first started, because it's almost 20 years ago now, it is what I believe the gold standard of coaching, just like Gallup is the gold standard with strengths. So that's my view of it so far.
So now in our profession of coaching, um, uh, when someone approaches you, like, do they want you to have master knowledge of what they do, or why are they approaching you?
Yeah, I would say my clients can be a range. Some of them are executive leaders, and they typically like a combination of
Mm.
coaching with some consulting. And so being able to use my coach hat. In fact, many of them really need to better understand what professional coaching is, because they think the coach is going to be the guide or consultant setting the agenda and really pinpointing those things that they need to work on. So I've had to educate, especially executive clients, that I'm going to ask you powerful questions. I'm going to put the ownership back on you a lot of our coaching. However, I will gladly take my coaching hat off if you want or need some expert advice or consulting or my experience and even experience from other clients that I've worked with. I'll be glad to mix that in. So just being able to differentiate and also be clear with our clients which hat we're wearing.
Yeah. Ha- one of the things I've, at least as I'm re-engaging the coach profession, um, is trying to educate folks on what a coach actually is, um, and just how really powerful those powerful questions can be. So it's been a um, interesting conversations I've had with myself and a few other folks of how do you actually market yourself as a coach,
Mm.
um, and is the word coach just overused nowadays, where maybe we need to not say coach? I don't know. Have you thought of that? Have you seen that with other coaches that you're training?
Well, there was a point, the word coach was definitely being used loosely and prevalently. And now I think there's more professionalism, there are more standards, there are more competencies. And so in the corporate world, there is definitely an awareness now of certified professional coaches. So that means having a certain level of accreditation, certification, is differentiating those who just call themselves a coach versus those that are certified. And I'm also a licensed professional counselor for many years. And of course, to become a state certified professional counselor, you have to get mentoring, you have to get a master's degree, you have to be supervised 2,000 to 4,000 hours even before you get your license. And so that same standard is, I believe, on the rise for professional coaches today, which I believe is a good thing. And so Professional coaching, though, is a billion-dollar industry, and it's still growing. So I do think the industry of coaching is growing. And if you're going to market yourself as a coach, then finding your differentiation and distinction is really important.
So maybe a distinction is I got certified faster than Brent by Gallup.
I'm not sure that distinction will help, but
Probably not.
but your experience in the military,
Mm-hmm.
your experience getting a PhD, those are two things I don't have. So
Yeah,
they can differentiate the coach Ryan versus the coach Brent.
totally. Yeah, I think most of it when it comes down to, and I'll ask you kind of what you're, what you've experienced. But looking at hiring a coach, like coaches need coaches. Like having a coach, having someone that um, doesn't really have any skin in the game other than they want you to be successful. Able to ask these questions and help you set a direction for whatever you want to, what you're trying to accomplish. Um, is really important. Where having a PhD might matter. A coach having a PhD may matter to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the end of the day, it's like, how um, do you connect with the person?
Yeah,
Like,
connection is no doubt one of the
yeah,
most important pieces. Do I really trust and feel that
hmm,
this person cares about me, genuinely wants my highest good and best version of themselves? And it is amazing though that some people, they may actually appreciate more knowledge
hmm,
in a particular coach. Like, for example, if you were coaching someone to finish their dissertation, they may be extra interested in, okay, how did you finish your dissertation and finalize your PhD and help me get over that line. And so your experience and shortcuts that you've learned may really help them.
yeah,
However, one of the things that we're taught, and I do believe this, is that as professional coaches, we don't have to be experts
hmm,
in a particular topic in order to coach someone well.
hmm,
So I don't have to be the guru on PhDs. I don't even have to have a PhD to help someone get over
hmm,
the line to finish their PhD. I don't have to be the financial wizard in order to even coach a chief financial officer in their role, in their leadership with their team. I can ask powerful questions and still help them build their confidence, build their toolkit, really achieve the goals that they want. I will say this, I believe one of the most important uh, skills of a professional coach is being able to individualize to clients. And of course, we know individualization is a specific talent theme that Gallup measures, but it really is that ability to think of the strengths and weaknesses of the client, to know what their goals and aspirations are, and already what their toolbox is full of or not full of. And then how do I help strategize with them in partnership with them to help them find that aspiration and goal that they really want? That is a real talent and skill to do that with people.
yeah. I love it, and I love the talent of individualization. Going back to talking more specific strengths from the assessment, and I thought about a dear friend of mine who's a great coach. And actually is the one who reintroduced me to strengths, or mostly introduced me to strengths. Individualization number 34. So For those that don't know, there's 34 talents. Number 34 is at the bottom. It's just at the end of the day, just really not you. So it's, stuff we need a partner or have some sort of strategy around. But he had number one, maximizer. And so it's one of those things, like, just because you can't necessarily individualize a plan, but he was really good at understanding the coaching process and really good at seeing from his maximizer lens the things that are just going to help someone just take off. And so I think that's when he kind of what he saw in me too. Like, all right, hey, there's some stuff here that's great. Like, let's dig into it. And um, so it was really neat. So just because you can't individualize or have individualization doesn't mean you can't individualize someone. So every strength or every talent is kind of a great coaching talent, right?
Especially our combination of strengths.
Yeah.
And so, we call that theme dynamics. So when you have 1, 2, 3 strengths that partner together, then they can actually fulfill the function of one particular talent theme.
Mhm.
So even if individualization is not natural or a top talent theme for someone, you can still learn
Totally.
skills of how to, for example, adaptability may really listen to the needs and the motivation of your client, and that adaptability may be able to go, okay, how about let's do less of this and more of this to help that client. And there are other strengths that may work in tandem to produce that.
Mm. Yeah, I love it. I think it's one of the funnest things um, to think about. Just as a reminder, if you have a question for me or Brent, just drop it in the chat, and we'll be glad to answer or talk about it or cause more confusion around it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Um, and one of the things, like Brent, we both really love the Clifton Strengths Assessment. We've talked about it quite a bit. So we'll just put it off to the side that, yeah, there's some really great benefits, especially to this assessment, where really, at least for me personally, it really helped me put words to something that was innate that I never could describe. And it was actually really quite affirming. Um, and so maybe we'll say that's kind of the benefits. What's some caution or something that we just need to be aware of when we're starting to work with assessments and people?
Yeah, that's a wise question, because I like to say that assessments do not tell us who we are.
Mm.
We tell the assessment who we are. Assessments are tools. And I'm a person of faith. So I like to say God is the source. Everything else is a resource.
Mm.
And that includes assessments. They are just resources, tools. And if
I
you
love
become
that. That was great.
if you become too dependent on a tool, then you miss the relationship with the person. And ultimately, the relationship with the person will trump even the tool. So coaching is, sure, we learn tools. And so Clifton Strengths is a great tool. In fact, I think it's a tool that gives people a shortcut, almost like a short master's degree in human behavior and human development. And so when you learn that tool and you learn the 34 strengths, you learn the DNA of human behavior. And so, however, even Clifton Strengths is not comprehensive over all the complexities of human beings. So learning how to utilize other assessments, learning how to not put people into boxes and over label them, I think is really important. And of course, that's my individualization speaking as well, is that you want to know the past, the present, the future aspirations. You want to know the strengths and the weaknesses. You want to know the values. You want to know that person's even wounds and traumas, because all of those things, even the environment and the culture that that person grows up in, all of those things, even with neurodiversity in the brain, creates every human being so uniquely. And so you really have to be fascinated with wanting to discover the uniqueness of that client, and how do we partner together so that we can bring out the best and manage the weaknesses.
Man, that's preaching words right there. That's good. Come on, right? I think you made a really cool snippet there about over labeling folks. So I had a boss a number of years ago for a short time who was really into an assessment. And I haven't had much experience with the assessment, so I'm sure there's some good value there. But he did use it to label folks, and um, and, and oddly enough, I never took it while I worked for him, even though he was super big. It was super weird. But anyways, it wouldn't have mattered because he,
Maybe
kind of
there's a little fear that he's going to
maybe.
judge, or he's going to reject you, based on what the results were.
Yeah, and his were the best results, and everybody else kind of maybe had some value, but it was really kind of a sad thing. It was really kind of weaponized against
Yes.
the staff. Have you had experience, working with a group or a company where things have been weaponized, and how do they respond to, your coaching?
That is a good word. I think there are some cultures and environments and leaders who are not well educated, and so they are weaponizing certain biases and certain models that they live and believe on. And so they try to force that on other people. And so in those cultures, I think there's fear of retaliation, and there's not psychological safety to be authentically you, to be genuinely you. And so it's important when we teach or promote any kind of tool, it's a resource. It's a resource to not just for us to get to know better the other person through conversation and through questions, but it's also a source and a resource for the other person to gain self-awareness. And so it's all those questions we're asking ourselves. What does this mean? What do I learn about myself? Just yesterday, I took the Colby assessment because I've known about that assessment for many years, but I'd never actually taken it. And so out of curiosity, I was like, yeah, I want to take it so I can have one more language or lens to better understand Brent O'Bannon. And so I do that periodically with assessments I don't even know about, because I want to know more about who I am and how I'm wired. So what is your view about that?
I love it. Actually, an hour ago, I was thinking of the Colby assessment because I was like, I should take that because I see people on LinkedIn interacting about it, and I'm like, oh, I should learn more about it. So I love it. I'll probably I don't know if I can do it today, but tomorrow for sure.
It only takes about 15 minutes, but I will say when I took the Colby assessment, the questions were really hard for me.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but man, it was just like, wow. I was like kind of surprised. Like, I think I have pretty good self-awareness, and yet some of these questions are like, I'm not sure how to fully answer that. So I just gave my gut response, of course. And I mean, there's no right or wrong. I'm not afraid to take assessments based on what they're going to show about me. So, but it's the conversation. You could actually get a result from an assessment, and you can read those results, but that is not the same as having a professional coach who can ask individualized, powerful, awareness provoking questions to get you to synthesize and then begin to integrate what you're learning about yourself through that assessment.
Yeah, totally. And I think that nails it. Because actually, like I first took the Clifton Strengths Assessment in I don't know, end of 2013, 2014. I was getting out of the army. A friend of mine was like, "You should take this," and I took it, and I said, "Great." These are, I got my top 5. I said, these are cool words. I don't know what this, and that's kind of where it ended.
Yeah.
And it sat on my bookshelf. I carried it around for me. I moved like 3 or 4 or 5 times,
Mm-hmm.
and it just moved around with me up until about summer of 2017 when I really was like, okay, I need a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it was like, oh man, this was missing all along. I wonder what would have changed, if anything, if I had a coach in 2014
Yeah.
compared to a coach in 2017. But I think that's exactly right. Like the assessments should be used to help you put words to something or get you to think deeper, or
Mm-hmm.
um, and then a coach helps kind of take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love assessments. So not only am I a strength certified coach, but I'm like a certified coach consultant with the 6 types of working genius,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which I've really enjoyed it once I've understood. Once I dove into it and kind of started to understand their language. Like, yeah, this is me. Like when they have a great analogy of, so it's a work performance or productivity
Mm-hmm.
tool. And it was like, help me understand why I got frustrated with like every job I ever had. Um, so they have this analogy of flying a plane, and there's 6 types of geniuses that help. You're flying the plane and you're landing the plane. And I like to be way up here. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're familiar with it, my
Mm-hmm.
geniuses are wonder and invention.
Mm.
And man, every job
I
I
hear
ever
some
had.
futuristic even in that.
Totally, and what I love is, like, my Clifton strengths tell me how I do my geniuses,
Yeah. Yes.
and, my frustration is, and, like, and tenacity is a competency, so tenacity is the very last one that helps land the plane. But when I kinda sat back and I was like, "I do like being involved in the landing the plane part,
Mm.
but I'd rather be a co-pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather partner with someone." So it really at least helped me understand, like, okay, yeah, like every job I ever had, I was up here that I really loved. And as soon as I take it on myself or someone makes me land the plane, that's when like things get really frustrating. And it was like, oh man. So um now sometimes you just have to land the plane. Like that's your job
Yeah.
and you just got to do it. But if you're always landing the plane, you need to have a good conversation with your boss or something, right?
So, how did you land the plane of completing your PhD?
Um, that's a good question. So I think we'll talk about this, and then we have a question in the chat that we'll answer. Yeah, so there is a lot of just put your butt in the chair and and grind it out. Now, it is one of those things like you can do things. Anybody can do anything, to be honest. But it's like, where do you find your enjoyment and all that? I didn't. It's one of those things like I did it. Can't say I enjoyed it. But it goes back to when I was 18 years old. Um, I started taking college classes, and I was looking at all this and like, oh, this is kind of cool. So you work towards an associate's and a bachelor, and I was like, that's pretty neat. That's kind of interesting. And people have, doctorates, PhDs, and doctors of education. And I knew you didn't want me to be your medical doctor at all, so I didn't even think about that.
Mhm.
And um, yes, when I was 18, I was just said, I'm going to do that someday.
Mhm.
And so things kind of started to align. Now my dissertation and research was on remote workers,
Mm.
and things really worked out. God lined everything up to when I was at the dissertation. Bulk of the dissertation part was actually during the COVID shutdowns, and so I had a lot of people qualified for my research.
Yeah, hybrid work, remote work is a big topic today,
Yeah, and
no
so
doubt.
yeah, so it was, but it was interesting. But it sent back to the I'm going to do that someday,
Yeah.
and then of course, I didn't actually start my bachelor's degree till I was 23. It was still 5 years later. But I just kind of, yeah. So when it comes to big goals like that, sometimes you just have to just put your butt in a chair and just work.
And maybe that's an example, from Clifton Strengths. We think of achiever as people who they do like not just to start and be productive with projects, but they get a joy of ending, finishing, and then boom, jump into the next project. So that's number 3 for me.
Yep,
So
33.
and so it's lower for
Yeah.
you. But that's a good question of, okay, what other natural talents work together to help
Hmm.
me finish the best? It's kind of like, what other natural talents do I have that help me to maximize when I need to maximize?
Yeah. Yeah. Responsibility. I told myself I was going to
Mm.
do it.
Mm.
And then I got some counsel along the way from um, uh, wiser older men in their late 50s and 60s who were in the same process. And they said, do it before you have kids.
Mm.
And so it worked out.
Wise.
I was,
Congratulations on that.
thank you.
Congratulations on both a PhD
Yeah.
and kids.
Yeah. I got PhD. My wife was pregnant at graduation, and when I walked the stage, and 8 months after completing, my boys were born, Xander and Lucas. And so that's actually who XL Coaching is named after.
Mm.
Um, Brent, we have a couple great questions in the chat here.
Okay.
Um, so the first one is: do you have certain questions for all clients, or do you wait to rely to get to really get to know them before your questions are formed?
When I first started in coaching, of course, I learned a few basic questions. And I like to say they're like training wheels on a bicycle.
Mm,
And so I think it's normal for beginner coaches to need some training wheels. And so, for example, some of those questions for me might be, in your own words, what are your strengths? In your own words, what are your weaknesses? In your own words, what are your goals and aspirations? In your own words, what are your greatest challenges? So those are just open-ended, basic questions. You don't have to have an assessment. You don't have to have any other information just to start a conversation with someone. However, my favorite questions and the best questions are the questions I have no idea what the answer is. And my client typically has never even thought of the question before. And that's when I love hearing, that's a great question. And I hear it frequently in my coaching sessions.
yeah, that's the one thing. Like, I've never thought of that. Like, yeah, that's powerful.
If you ask questions as a coach to get people to think what you're thinking, those will not be your best questions.
Mm,
It's the questions that are driven by true curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
true, like, intuitive hunches in the moment. And those are my favorite. I know I'm in the coaching zone whenever I'm truly asking those types of questions. So to answer that person's question, it's really the questions that I do not even think about or contemplate or write down or prepare for. It is in the moment transformational questions that are the most powerful.
Yeah. Of course, I was kind of thinking what's uh what's a question you feel like you you're never asked that you want to be asked?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Well, that's also a question to you. So,
Woo!
what's a question that you want to be asked, but you're never asked, Brent?
Hmm. Maybe, how does counseling and your education with counseling affect and influence your coaching?
Mm,
A lot of people don't really ask me about that.
mm. Yeah. So, how does your counseling and education affect your coaching?
Counseling and psychology, and my background in psychology was so much fun for me
Mm,
to learn and to study, and learner's not high for me, so it's my focus and achiever that drive the learning, deep learning for that topic. It's studying all the theories of personality and human development, and learning about all of the thought leaders, whether it's Freud or B.F. Skinner or whether it's Donald Clifton. Really, allowing my brain to even, search uh, the the complexities of human beings. That's the foundation of counseling. And of course, understanding even mental illness and mental health issues. It, in my experience with, helping individuals and families and couples and uh, adolescents and adults and all kind of humans over the years as a professional counselor, has just, I think it's enriched my knowing of humanity. So if I was to sum up really what I think my calling is, I feel called to champion strengths around the world for human flourishing. And so counseling really helps take people from just surviving to really thriving. And I like the word flourishing even better, because flourishing means that I am well, I am thriving, I am becoming my best in all aspects of my life. And that energizes everything I do with coaching wise and training. I do a lot of training, masterminding. So those skills of teaching, facilitating are different than the skill of professional coaching. And all of those are built on the psychology of people and the sociology of people, really understanding people in environments, in the culture that they grow up and live.
yeah. Mm. Yeah. So we're actually we're nearing the end of our time schedule, but um, you have quite a bit of stuff going on. Tell us what in regards to some workshops for folks. What do you have going on? Love to learn more about what you're doing, and maybe someone might be interested in reaching out to you about it.
Yeah, I'm humbled that I have some awesome collaboration going on right now that is just really energizing to me. Number one is a new human resource professional development workshop
Mm.
that Dr. Derek Cruz and I, who has written 2 textbooks on human resource management and talent management, and he and I are doing a workshop. By the way, we are now SHRM education providers. So we are
That's
giving
great.
professional development credits. So my company is able to do that now. And so not only are we doing a workshop coming up, but also we are going to be having an HR mastermind
Mm.
ongoing. Another collaboration that's coming up, I'm so excited, is with Shay Bynes, who is the author of Grace Over Grind, as well as Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur. She's really the one that has started that movement. And so she and I are going to be doing a Kingdom Driven CEO workshop together coming up here in March. And we also will have a mastermind that will start. And then the third mastermind in collaboration is with Stacy Witten, who is a professional certified coach, ICF, a lot of years of wisdom and being in different parts of business herself. And she also is the past president of the ICF chapter in Dallas. And so she and I will be doing a faith-based Strengthspreneur 10X strategy workshop coming up. And so we're going to be talking about how do you apply strengths and your faith and biblical principles in business building. So this is for coaches, service professionals. And then, of course, I have that ongoing mastermind, which, in fact, I'll be facilitating here in just a few moments. So that's a little glimpse of what's going on, collaboration. And, of course, you can go to BrentO'Bannon.com. Lots of fun resources and toolkits that you can get there as well.
Brent, thanks so much for having coffee with me and hanging out and talking strengths and sharing your story. And everybody watching, thanks for hanging out and thanks for the question. Yeah, like Brent said, please visit BrentO'Bannon.com. And I know you can connect with Brent further from there if you like to. You can also go to xlcoaching.net to connect more with me, or email me at ryan@xlcoaching.net. But I will be here real quick. Next plug. This happens every second and fourth Monday as of right now. My next guest, him and his kind of business partner are educator entrepreneurs, just starting a nonprofit based on the arts, music and photography and all that kind of really great stuff. And we'll chat same time, same place in 2 weeks. So I have some great guests lined up. And Brent, thank you for being my first one in February. And we'll see you later, my friend.
You got it.